been a little while. Howdy guys, Ponchato here and welcome back to Monthly Builds. If you're new to the series, Monthly Builds is a series of videos where I cover PC and hardware news and go over parts for PC builds at various budgets every month. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. It's been a while since I've run this series, so we'll start with an overview of where we're at with the two main components in PCs, and the two main components that everybody argues about: graphics cards and processors. Looking first at CPUs, we're just a month or two away from Intel's next generation Comet Lake processors, which is the series that'll occupy the model numbers in the 10,000s, 10700K, 10900K, and so on. But they'll still be on 14 nanometers. For reference, the first 14 nanometer CPUs from Intel were released in 2014 with the Broadwell die shrink. Ouch. Each generation of microarchitecture has a code name, and the first Intel architecture built for 14 nanometer was the 6000 series Skylake processors. Those were released in mid-2015 and include the still pretty well-liked 6700K. After that, the Kaby Lake 7 series, which includes the 7700K, Coffee Lake was the 8 series and the 9 series refresh, and in April of 2020, we'll have the Comet Lake processors, the 10 series. I don't know if they still do it, but Intel had a habit of adding a plus on the end of the 14 nanometers to make it seem like they're still progressing. So at this point, I believe we're at 14 nanometers plus. Now, not to rip on Intel too much, leaks indicate we could see boost clocks up to 5.3 gigahertz. Stock. If those leaks end up true, that is very impressive, and in single-threaded applications, it'll definitely be a formidable challenge to AMD's Ryzen processors. Only time will tell, but I expect the 10 series is still going to trade blows with Ryzen, even though they're like 4 years behind on die shrinks. That 5.3 gigahertz boost also probably means the projected 125 watt TDP for the enthusiast processors is going out the window. Oh, and Comet Lake will be on another new socket, LGA 1200, which means that old motherboards are both electrically and mechanically incompatible with the new processors. You'll also have to buy a new motherboard if you want Comet Lake. It never ends with this company. Granted, mounting holes for the CPU cooler will still be the same as LGA 1151, 1150, 1155, and 1156, so you should at least be able to use the same CPU cooler. Why Intel doesn't change that every year too, I don't know, but I guess we should be grateful. Looking ahead, at this point, Intel's first actual die shrink in 6+ years probably won't even come out in 2020 due to the major issues they've been having with their 10 nanometer node. As with all things, time will tell, but I'm not holding my breath. On the AMD side, since Zen 2 and the Ryzen 3000 processors were released fairly recently, we shouldn't expect any major changes until at least later this year. That leaves the current lineup of the 6-core Ryzen 3600, 3600X, 3700X, 3800X, all the way up to the 12-core 3900X. On the enthusiast Threadripper side, there's the 24-core 3960X, the 3970X with 32 cores, and the top-end 3990X with an insane 64 cores. That one's also like $4 grand, so don't get too excited for your next Minecraft build. Now, looking at the current state of graphics cards, things have been, in my opinion, a little slow, and pricing isn't great, but it's also not the worst we've ever seen. NVIDIA just released the RTX 2060 KO in response to AMD's RX 5600 XT. The 2060 KO runs about 3% faster than the RTX 2060 while maintaining the same $300 price tag, and it very closely matches the RX 5600 XT's performance. NVIDIA's most recent moves on the lower end were last year's GTX 1650 Super and 1660 Super, with the 1660 Super largely replacing the 1660 Ti due to the Super's much lower price and nearly equivalent performance. There have also been rumors about an RTX 2080 Ti Super release at some point this year, but so far those are still just rumors. On the AMD side of graphics, Team Red's current lineup was expanded a bit over the last few months to include the entry-level RX 5500 XT, which starts at around $170 US and competes with the GTX 1650 Super. The RX 5600 XT, which trades blows with the RTX 2060 and 2060 KO, and toward the mid to high end, we have the RX 5700 and 5700 XT, both of which were released in the middle of 2019. There's been talk of a new RDNA architecture and new high high-end GPUs from AMD, but no word on when those will actually be introduced, so at the very earliest we should expect an announcement by the second half of this year. Still on graphics, Intel is actually getting in the mix of discrete graphics cards with their Xe GPUs. This is the first time they've gone after discrete graphics in more than a decade, actually. The first full release product is estimated around mid-2020, so for now we have pretty limited info on what exactly to expect. But more competition is always a good thing, especially given the stagnation in graphics we've seen mostly from AMD in the last few years. Now that we're all caught up with hardware, let's look at the builds. This month we'll be checking out an entry-level $600 PC and a very capable $1,600 build. First up, the $600 build. For the CPU, I went with the $120 Ryzen 5 2600. At 120 bucks, the 2600 is hard to beat. 6 cores, 12 threads, 3.9 GHz boost, and it includes the very capable Wraith Stealth stock cooler, which even allows for a bit of overclocking. That also means we don't need to eat up any of the budget with an aftermarket CPU cooler. For the GPU, I went with MSI's GTX 1650 Super Ventus XS OC for $160. The 1650 Super is really the budget king among current generation graphics cards, similar in performance to an RX 580 while using significantly less power. Less power means less heat, which also means less noise. And the Ventus XS cooler includes dual fans and a very capable heatsink that'll keep temperatures and fan speeds low. I went with ASROCK for the motherboard, a B450M Pro 4 for $75. It's a bit bare bones, but it includes all the most important parts: 4 RAM slots to add more memory in the future, 2 M.2 slots for SSDs, and a decent VRM that can handle mild to moderate overclocking. For an entry-level PC, saving a bit of money on the motherboard like this is worth having the benefit of a faster CPU and GPU. Corsair gets the pick for memory with 16 GB of their Vengeance LPX RAM for $50. It's not the fastest at 2400 MHz, but like with the motherboard, the benefit of cost savings here is worth the much larger gain in performance you get from being able to pick a higher end CPU and GPU. Plus, 16 GB is enough to last quite a long time before you'll need to add more. The SSD I went with is the Western Digital Blue SN550 for $65. This is a 500 GB M.2 drive that runs on NVMe, which means you get read and write speeds up to 2400 megabytes per second, about 4 times faster than SATA drives. And because it's an M.2 SSD, there are no extra wires or cable management. It just plugs directly into the motherboard. For the power supply, it was a bit of a toss-up, but I went with EVGA's 600BR for $50. This is a good choice for an entry-level build. 80+ bronze efficiency rating, all the standard circuit protections, a 3-year warranty, and 600 watts is enough to cover just about any upgrade you'd make to this computer. Finally, for the case, I went with a refresh of a reliable classic, NZXT's H510 for $70. The H510 is a good-looking case with a tempered glass side panel, great cable management. It includes 2 120mm exhaust fans stock and gives you plenty of room for more fans or water cooling, tall CPU coolers, and long graphics cards. Plus, a power supply shroud which dramatically simplifies the process of cable management, making your build look good. All told, these parts come out to $590. That'll get you a great entry-level PC that'll be able to handle most modern games at medium to high settings at 1080p. With an AM4 motherboard, your options for upgrading the CPU are extensive. The 600-watt power supply will give you more than enough headroom for just about any graphics card or processor you might pick. Click the link in the description to pick up these parts for yourself. If you can swing a bit higher budget, this next $1,600 build will be a good bit stronger than the previous build, and it'll offer some significant performance improvements, especially if you'll be gaming at 4K or for more demanding tasks like video editing and CAD. For the CPU, I went with AMD's latest generation and chose the Ryzen 7 3700X for $310. This is a high-end 8-core 16-thread CPU with boost clock up to an impressive 4.4 GHz. And because it's on AMD's 7nm Zen 2 architecture, power and heat are kept reasonable because of its super high efficiency. It also includes the Wraith Prism LED cooler, but will instead be going with Scythe's Fuma 2 air cooler for $60. This is one of the most capable air coolers I've tested. It includes 2 120mm fans, has a super easy installation process, and has the added benefit of not interfering with the RAM slots at all, which is important due to the RAM we'll be looking at in a second. For the GPU, I picked EVGA's RTX 2070 Super Gaming for $510. The 2070 Super is one of the most powerful GPUs available, second only to the 2080 and its variants. With 8 GB of GDDR6 memory and a 1770 MHz boost clock, the 2070 Super is a very strong option for 4K gaming at high settings. And because of EVGA's high-end cooling solution with 2 fans, the high performance of this card doesn't have to be accompanied by high noise. Moving on to the motherboard, for this build I went with the ASUS Prime X570-P for $145. Because of the increased power requirements for the top-end Ryzen 3000 CPUs, most X570 boards have extremely capable VRMs, including this one. The X570P includes 4 RAM slots, which we'll be using, dual M.2 slots, and plenty of connectivity options for other components inside the case. As mentioned, those 4 RAM slots will be put to use because for the memory, I went with Corsair's Vengeance RGB Pro 32GB kit for $183. These modules are rated for 3200 MHz, which almost tops out the 3700X's max memory speed, and they have sweet RGB heat spreaders to light up your build. This is also where the CPU cooler is important because the Fuma 2 won't cover the RAM slots at all, leaving these bad boys in full view. The go-to for high-end SSDs is Samsung, and for this build I went with the 1TB 970 EVO for $170. This NVMe M.2 drive has write speeds up to 2500 megabytes per second and read speeds up to a ridiculous 3500, with exceptional random read and write speeds to boot. It also comes with an extensive 5-year or 600 terabytes written warranty, so you'll be covered for quite a long time. Power will come from EVGA's SUPERNOVA 750GA for $95. This is a fully modular 80+ gold 750 watt power supply, which has the awesome feature of being able to run fanless below about 40% load. That's something I always look for in power supplies when the budget allows, because it means the power supply will be completely silent at idle. It also comes with a huge 10-year warranty, so you don't have to worry about EVGA standing by this power supply. Last but not least, for the case, I went with Cooler Master's Mastercase H500 for $120. The most obvious feature of this case is the huge cooling up front, 2 200mm RGB fans. And that's mesh up front as well, so they aren't starved for airflow, though the case also comes with an acrylic front panel if you don't like the look of mesh. The left side panel is tempered glass to show off your components. It includes a power supply shroud and covers for the cable routing holes, and being a full ATX case, it offers plenty of room for large CPU coolers, graphics cards, and liquid cooling. All in all, these parts come out to $1,593, just under budget. A build like this will definitely put you near the top of consumer PC performance and will easily handle gaming at 4K along with demanding productivity tasks. And because of the excellent CPU cooler, graphics card, and case airflow, noise levels and temperatures will be kept very well in check. Click the link in the description below to pick up these parts for yourself. So we're all caught up with the state of PC hardware, and now you have 2 builds to pick from if you've been thinking about upgrading or joining the PC gaming world. And be sure to check out my PC build videos to see how it's done, linked in the description below. Hit subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified of new videos as soon as they're up. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more of monthly builds, hit subscribe. And I want to hear from you. What budgets would you like to see in the next monthly builds? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope I helped, and I'll see you in the next video. At an entry-level $600 PC. I really wish AMD would do to graphics cards what they did to CPUs with Ryzen. A man can dream. But hey, at least memory and SSDs aren't insanely expensive anymore. At least we have that.